Hi, I am Bring Otogi back on Reddit. I was recently one of the top voted uh, posters on the RPG Horror Stories subreddit, and there was a hectic discussion in regards about whether or not I was in the right on the first part of not wanting to lend my die to John. That were going to join our game at the time, which was Storm King's Thunder. And I think that I like to think that I am a man that can easily uh, take to heart some criticism. I know that I am not perfect. I think that we all are flawed in one way or another, and I think it's only fair that instead of me, because I have issues getting out the right words when it comes to text, I feel way more comfortable doing it verbally because English is not my first language. Believe it or not, like I live in Sweden. IKEA, köttbullar och ABBA and all that jazz. So uh, I I have linked you the submission I made to RPG Horror Stories in the description, so you can take a gander and look at it there. Where I portray myself first off as a gatekeeping asshole for not letting John get to use my die for free, and it is very hard to explain. Like I said, this group and I have been playing together since 2004. I have been the GM for them ever since I was 13 years old. We are a close group of friends, and I was already reluctant, which I stated in my post, to let someone in already, and that might have actually contributed to my behavior earlier. And I see that, and I saw that back then, and I was hoping that I was getting that across the post, but clearly I didn't. So I apologize for not being clear enough with you guys. But what I want to say, though, however, is that John, I knew of John earlier. He was in a friend circle, so to say, and he had voiced interest several times into playing D&D with us. Um, and I, like I said previously, I've been very reluctant because this was like the one time me and my friends could sit down together and no computers, no tablets, no phones. Just sit down, we drink beer, we eat good food, and we role play and we have fun. Now, normally back in the day, we would not, of course, drink beer. We would drink soda and stupid shit like that. But um, it's not stupid. Apologies, but yeah. But you evolve as time goes on, and I myself am a married man, and so is another person, and he is also a father. And then we have Amanda as well, who is a mother of two. Um, then we have I can't remember the nickname I gave him, but he's also a father of one. So this was sort of like our escape. Also, it became not only fun for us to meet up, but it became our escape from the grim reality which we have. Me with my job and the issues I face on the day to day basis, they would be able to escape their family lives and so on. And we would actually spend time together instead of sitting in front of the computer talking on Discord or TeamSpeak and playing online games. We would actually find a reason to meet up and sit together and socialize. And I don't think that there is a better way of socializing with your friends than having a role playing session because you're having so much fun and you're exposing yourself so much. And I think that's also one of my main issues with not letting John in was because I was not willing to open myself up to someone I didn't know that well. But that's an issue, and that was wrong of me. And I see that. I acknowledge that. However, the thing is that when the person whose alias I cannot remember came to me and said, can please John be allowed to join? He's been nagging on me, and I said, I can see myself being the villain here, not allowing him to join. So I said, you know what? Yeah, man, I'll allow him to join. He doesn't have to pay for the books or anything. I will print his character sheet. I will buy the beer like I always do. He doesn't have to bring any snacks. He's more than welcome. But let him know. Check with him if he has any dice, because I want him to bring at least something with him. Because I am providing with food, I'm providing with source books, I'm providing him. I was willing to go to his place and sit down with him and help him understand how to construct a character, not do it over Discord or Skype or anything like that. I wanted to go to his place and get to know the guy because, we were going to be role playing together. And this guy with the alias, whom I cannot remember, says, well, uh, you know that John is well off when it comes to money, and I don't think he's going to have money getting his own dice. And I said, well, that's fine, but he might even have some dice on his own. And so I talked to John, and we have this dice confrontation. And I want to emphasize that I think it has to do something with table culture, I guess. But the thing is that what we have done ever since 2004 is that if we purchase a product for, let's say that it costs $54, and it is an expansion or source book or an adventure, even at that, I would pay half, like the entire half of the cost of the adventure. And then they would chime in to fill in or chip in, sorry, to fill in the other half. And that's what we've always done, because as a user pointed out, like, I seem to be having issues with money as well, or being stressed out with money, or that I'm flaunting my wealth. I am not. I really want to iterate that I am not flaunting my wealth. It is a hobby of mine, and it is a hobby of my friends. We enjoy it. It's not like I have purchased all of this within the course of a week or so. This is something I have gathered up over the years as we've been playing together. And I still think definitely that I was in the wrong for not allowing him to even use a virtual dice. But the thing is that that was intruding already on our safe space, as I like to put it. Now, you might disagree with this and call me an asshole on it, and that's completely okay. But the thing is that, like I iterated before, um, this was a time when we would sit down with no phones or tablets or anything like that. We'd just sit down with pen and paper. Now, I'm going to come over to the D&D Beyond argument later on, but it was sort of like our time with no distractions whatsoever. We would just role play and have this great epic adventure, and we would play together. And to have someone come in who has never played before uh, and gets to loan all of this, and I get him, print his character sheet, I get him food, I get him drinks. He gets to come to my place. We get to hang out. I offered to sit down at his place and help him understand. I would bring the book, and he said, "No, man, that's okay. I'll just check some YouTube videos." And I'm like, "Okay, fine. If that's what you want to do, then you can learn as you go along," which is fine. Um, I was trying to let myself be a sort of guide to him, I guess, where I would be able to, come over to his place. I would show him, okay, so this is generally how it works. Now, if you don't like it, we can definitely make a different spin on it. Basically, I wanted him to feel as comfortable as possible, but I also wanted him to understand that this takes time and it takes effort, not only from the dungeon master, but from the player as well. And things cost money, obviously. And me cooking food, me bringing beverages, and me letting him use all my source book, me printing his character sheet, and me telling him, hey, the least you can do is bring your own die. And he throws a temper tantrum at me. And then tries to find another way of not buying dies because "Oh, I found a virtual dice. I'm going to use that instead." And I said, "No, we use real dice." Because I had iterated to him before, this is a session or a long term adventure where we're not going to have our phones with us. We're not going to have laptops. We're not going to have smart tablets or anything like that. We're just going to sit down where we are going to play this like as old school as possible. And that's a kind of weird form of gatekeeping, I guess. Well, that's how we wanted it to be. You need to understand that, which I assume most of you are, that we are millennials. and we were basically born just before the digitalization of everything. And to have a moment, 4 or 5 hours of nothing being digitalized, is it means a lot to us, especially within our field of work. And John knew of this. John knew this. He knew it. I probably didn't get that clear enough in the original post, but he knew that we wanted nothing digital here, and that was not just my decision, mind you. This was a decision made by the party. I think it was Amanda at one point. I think one of the players came in and said that he wanted to use his tablet, and before we knew it, a bunch of Facebook notifications and Twitter notifications started to pop up, and he would get distracted. And we all agreed on, okay, let's not do that, and that's fine. That's completely okay. Like we all were in unison on this. This was not just my decision. And John knew of this. John knew that he was going to join a long-term adventure. I told him, "Hey man, we can have a one shot instead where you can feel your legs." And so it's like, "No, I want to do a big grand adventure." Because he's been watching a lot of Critical Role lately or something like that. And I had to iterate to him that I am not Matthew Mercer, because I'm not. I am me. And he was like, "No, that's fine, but I really want a big grad adventure because I think that's going to be a perfect introduction for me to witness something, to be part of something epic." And that would be a great introduction to me. I was like, "Okay, fine, fair enough. It's your choice." But he did not want to pay $5 for dice. And I am fully the bad guy here? No, I don't think so. And definitely, we can agree to disagree. There are a lot of dungeon masters that feel free with, lending everything they have. And they're just like, I just want more people to join my table. And that's completely fine if that's the kind of table you're having. But this has been like a private table for 13 years at the time. And this guy joins and already causes a ruckus. Uh, yeah, it's kind of weird. And as for the D&D Beyond conversion, I just really wanted to say quick that it was one of the players, I think it even was John, to be honest, that suggested it. And I was like, okay, so I have Fantasy Grounds, and I have the source books on Fantasy Grounds, and I have them physically as well. I don't want to pay for them a third time. And then all the players chimed in and said, "You know what, Marco? That's my name, by the way. It is really a hassle for us to constantly fill in our character sheets and reprint them, and remove or add inventory gold and so on, and just sit there with pen and paper. It would be a lot easier if we were actually able to just use tablets or laptops to control our character sheets." And I think that we're old enough now to sort of like avoid such distractions at this point because we're so deeply invested into D&D at this point. And who am I to take that away from them? If they as a group, if they as players feel like this will be easier for us, then absolutely. Absolutely. Not going to argue. When it comes to them wanting to use suddenly digital die, if that's something that majority of the table wants to do, absolutely. But at the time of the dice situation, that was not the case. Um, but yeah, so the group persuaded me of wanting to use D&D Beyond, which I think is great. It has its flaws, as almost every platform does. Even the old pen and paper system has its own flaws. One of the flaws being that there is no place for you to basically fill in your features because they just take up so much space. Um, but yeah, definitely. Not features, feats. Sorry, or features and feats. Anyways, but yeah, that's what they wanted to do, and who am I to take that away from them? I want them to be able to have fun, and if they think that suddenly using the old school RPG system is starting to become a hassle, and things can become way easier to keep track of, way easier to handle, and so on, using it digitally with D&D Beyond. Absolutely. I am 100% behind you. And then we purchased D&D Beyond. I remember I checked in with everybody. We were on our messenger chat group, and I checked in with everybody. So I was like, I'm about to purchase now all the source books for D&D Beyond, and I'm also going to purchase the subscription in order for me to share my content with you. Now and they're like, "Oh, do you want us to pay for the subscription?" I said, "No, you don't have to do that. I can use this in future games if I am ever having a different session or something like that. But can you at least help me, with the source books?" And everyone, including John, said, "Absolutely, absolutely. We will do that for you, Marco, because you've already paid enough." And I said, "Well, I think that we've all paid almost an equal amount." But yeah, they understood my gripes with not wanting to pay the full price. I did not want to pay $240, something like that, by myself again for all the source books that I have purchased twice already. And we came to an agreement, and I said, "Okay, I'm making the purchase." And everyone sends thumbs up emojis. But John suddenly becomes quiet. And so the purchase is made. And I said, "Okay, can everybody transfer over money to my account because the money has been deducted from my account?" And everybody transfers money. And then John says, "I don't think that service is good enough for me. It seems too expensive, and I don't think that I will use it anyway." And then he's surprised that we're using D&D Beyond all of a sudden. He thought that we were not going to use it because he didn't want to chime in on it. And that was also a part of pure principle. You see, when it comes to D&D Beyond, what's so amazing about D&D Beyond is that I can create a lot of campaigns, and I can share that content with people. Uh, no issue whatsoever. So if I were to host like a one shot, or even let's say that I wanted to do something from Tales from the Yawning Portal, okay, I could have people who have never played the game before run through Sunless Citadel, and I would not expect them to pay a single dime. I would just tell them, "Hey, get an account on D&D Beyond. I will invite you to the campaign. I will share the source book information with you. We're gonna have a great time. We're gonna have fun." But when John did what he did, and we got upset, all of us got upset out of pure principle. We said, "No, you can't use D&D Beyond because you didn't pay for it like you said you would." Then suddenly it becomes a justifiable thing. Then suddenly we're not gatekeeping him. I don't get that. Like, I, I, I am not trying to say that I was not at fault with the die situation. I should have let him use a virtual die. I should have checked with the rest of the table to say, "Are you okay with the guy using virtual dice for about 2, 3 sessions to see if he actually likes it? Feel the water." But I didn't. That's my mistake. That's my bad. I'll take that criticism. But it's almost the same thing when we said that, no, you can't use D&D Beyond. It's like it's basically almost the exactly same thing, except that it's more money involved this time. So that becomes more justifiable. But if it's just $5, then I am a gatekeeping asshole for not letting someone die. I don't get that. And I probably never will get that because I don't think that I have an option of having a two-way conversation with this in regards of this subject. And I really wish that I was able to somehow, to all the dungeon masters and players who and Reddit users who said that I am the asshole. I am hope that I have sort of like made it a little bit clearer now that I was not acting out of my own pure volition and spite or anything like that. Um, I was just using, rules that had already been decided at the table, rules that John already knew about. And yeah, sometimes you have to shoot the messenger. And you know what? an argument that might pop up is that, hey, man, you are the dungeon master. You can just say, no, man, let this guy use virtual die for like 1 or 2 sessions. I could have said it, but I didn't, and that's my bad. Um, but it's just dies. And dude, if he didn't like D&D, it if he didn't like D&D, dice can be used for many things, not just D&D. So I don't see how I am the bad guy. It's sort of like, hypothetically speaking, this is kind of extreme, but it's sort of like me being the kind of guy that said, "No, I expect you to bring your own pen if you're going to be joining a pen and paper RPG group." And he throws a hissy fit for having to buy a pen. Basically the same thing. But yeah, I'm sorry if I offended anybody with my post, but I was trying to be as transparent as possible. And I'm trying to be even more transparent with this video, even though this might make me even more petty uploading this video. But I think that there is always more to a story, and I think definitely could have added more information to it. But I also feel like uh, one guy basically said that he didn't read the entire post and he already made a judgment on that I was a fucking asshole. I mean, sure, okay, that's fine. Um, but the least you can do is basically read the entire content. Maybe try to get a little bit more context into it. There was one guy who said that I was an awful DM for expecting someone on their first session to pay for D&D Beyond. That was not true. This happened 3 years later, 3 years after he joined. And to clarify on what happened during those 3 years is that it took him 1.5 or 2 years to get a player's handbook. After the players started getting annoyed with him, constantly reaching for my PHB when I needed the PHB to reference rules and so on. Luckily, that will no longer be a case because of D&D Beyond, which is fantastic. Um, but yeah, and I think that I am definitely at fault here to some extent, to some degree. I definitely think that, but I don't think I am an asshole. I don't think that I was asking for too much. I really don't. And something as petty and as stupid as $5 for a die is a very strange hill to die on, as some Reddit poster said. And I agree. It is a very strange, weird, and stupid hill to die on. But I will die on it, I guess, because I had already done so much for the guy. And I didn't ask for much. And we, the group, didn't ask for much. Really, we didn't. And he would also, when he got his die, he enjoyed them. He played with them a lot and he tossed them a lot. And then he'd lost his die and he's like, "Do I have to buy another set of $5 die?" I was like, "No, man, here you go. You've already invested. I can give you my die. That's okay. You have already invested in this. I am willing to help you now. That I have already helped you with, Senator's Guide to Everything, Modern Kindness, Tome of Foes, Player's Handbook, Volo's Guide to Monsters, Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide, blah blah blah, you name it. Like, I'm not gonna hold you back now because you lost your die. That would be awful of me. So here, have this die. Well, yeah. Hope this has cleared some things up. Peace.